Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I've got my character review of Dory to jump into, and we're just going to dive straight into it. My video will be a little bit shorter. I had struggles with testing her. She kept crashing my phone, so I didn't get as much footage. However, let's just dive into it here and show what I've uncovered. Okay, we'll quickly run over her bio again, but she is high-tech and seafaring, so it makes her very useful for towers, and she's got that goofball tag and that potential Pixar tower that's been speculated. So very, very good tags. Moving on to her abilities, we've got short-term memory loss. So when Dory is inflicted with a damaging debuff, she gains a forgetful charge for 3 seconds. Cleansing all damaging debuffs from all allies on expiry. This effect can only occur once every 7 seconds. So this is a pretty good ability. It means she can cleanse a lot of damaging debuffs. It makes her pretty good against elementals. You know, they inflict lots of debuffs, so she's pretty good there. And then we've got Dory is immune to focus buffs and focus debuffs. I covered that in the last video, but it kind of makes sense with her character. She is, you know, she's pretty much unable to focus, so there's that. But it just means that she's not really going to get much crit damage or crit hits in. Her damage is quite underwhelming, I will say this. She really does not hit hard, and maybe it's due to this immunity, but the fact that she can't get focus debuffs is also pretty good. Then we've got Dory's heavy attack, which can hit and knock back all enemies in a wide arc in front of her, but she doesn't knock back bosses. Okay, now I was really kind of excited for this ability, but the problem is you have to literally be touching the enemy to even get it to work. I found that if I wasn't like standing right next to the enemies, this wouldn't work. So I don't know if that's just intentional, but it just made it a little bit underwhelming. I expected the heavy attack to do quite a big knockback. The other thing about Dory that I'll mention is that the reason I'm not that hyped about her is the way she plays, the game style. Now, it was Kabam's intention to make her like a pseudo support tank. She plays very, very near the front line, not like traditional supports. So most supports will stay sort of back out of the way, trying to avoid getting hit. Dory just kind of gets in the way and effectively gets hit quite a lot, but she plays a bit like a tank because of this heavy attack and also because of her special, which has this circular knockback as well. But in my opinion, it limits her, it makes her fragile, and it means that you have to kind of protect her quite a lot. Like, I would recommend on this basis that you run her with another support and potentially a tank. For me, she's just a bit reckless, and I guess that's a little bit in her nature. So yeah, just one to watch out for. As I said, this heavy attack was a bit underwhelming for me. I was quite excited for this because it had this knockback, but you really need to be standing right next to enemies, and this is why she has this weird playstyle. Right, moving on to her special abilities. So 15-second cooldown for this one. All allies heal for 2.5% each second for 6 seconds. Because of the fact I had her at level 50 and I've been using her with like other stronger characters, I didn't really feel this heal that much. So I assumed that, you know, at high levels it'll be much better, but it felt very standard for me. And then with this ability, Dory knocks back all enemies around her. Now, I was very excited for this as well, and this is partly why she plays this kind of weird hybrid tank role, and it's because you kind of have to control Dory. So when it comes to this ability, you have to move Dory around. Now, the fact that she plays a little bit closer to enemies makes this a little bit easier for you to control and then switch back. So you can effectively take control of Dory, rush her into battle, and do this AoE. You know, it's a little bit like Wally's knockback, I guess. You know, it doesn't really have much effect other than a knockback, which is the main thing. But yeah, it's okay, and it's pretty cool that we've got another support that has a knockback. And then we've got Dory gains a second wind buff for 8 seconds. When this effect expires, she heals for 60% of the damage taken. Now, full disclosure, guys, I think this is bugged. I did some testing with this, and it's bugged in a good way. It actually heals for more than 60% of the damage taken. Now, her signature ability boosts the potency here, but I was finding out that she was healing more than 100%. So I presume Kabam will fix this, but for now, you know, this second wind buff is healing her more than it should. It wasn't consistent. It sometimes healed her 60% or 65% like it like it should be with her signature ability. But a lot of the time, and you'll see in footage here, she healed back way more than she should have. Something to watch out for. I expect that to get fixed. But also, you know, in the middle of battle, you don't really notice it that much. And in all honesty, it's not that great of an ability. It makes her so limited in getting herself back to full health, and it just makes her a bit of a liability, if I'm being honest. The fact that she traditionally can't heal all the way back, and she plays such a reckless role, in my view, makes her less desirable. If you're really about skill and you want to control Dory, you want to control your supports, you know, she's not that different from Frank, if I'm being honest. You have to control Frank. In fact, you have to control Dory a fair bit more than Frank. So bear that in mind. Something that I wasn't uber keen on. Anyway, moving on to her signature ability. So Dory gains 50% at the start of encounter, which I said is quite nice. She needs it because she plays this sort of reckless role. And then we've got this potency of Dory's second wind buff. I don't know. It's something I'm not sure I want to spend my signets on, if I'm being honest. It's just going to increase this potency, and it's obviously bugged right now. So I'll say this, it'll definitely help her survivability once they fix this bug. But generally speaking, I'm not mad about this signature ability. Now, moving on to her talents. We've got Bubbly, just a standard increased health, which you might use because, you know, it increases the heal. Then we've got Reinforced Plating, so she's going to grant 20% defense. Ignore that one. And then we get on to her interesting abilities. So, have we met? Dory gains 20% armor for each damage and debuff cleansed from her by her forgetful charge. This was an interesting one. I was expecting in most battles for her armor gain to be massive because of this ability, which wasn't really the case. You needed to be fighting enemies that first of all lay down debuffs. So in some battles, like I didn't see her gaining any armor at all. But then in other battles, and I'll point some out specifically, battles against elementals, her armor just goes from 0 to 100. It's mental, which leads me to believe that she's going to have some very, very niche but very significant use when fighting elementals. I personally think Rift Raids is going to have a lot of missions with elementals, and I think we're seeing lots of characters that come out with specific kits designed to fight and, you know, be counters to these elementals. And I think this talent here for Dory is exactly that. It's going to give her lots of survivability. It's going to make her much better in this weird tank role that she kind of takes on. So yeah, I think this is one you want to equip. Dory circumstantially is going to be a very, very good character. Okay, then moving on, we've got great first impression. So the first time an enemy hits Dory, each combat they receive a minus 20% focus debuff for 15 seconds. And then this effect can be triggered again every time a forgetful charge on her expires. And then this next bit, Dory's special ability lures all ranged for 8 seconds. Okay, so here's the deal. I did not like this ability at all. For me, at level 50, she was not tanky in the slightest. So in the missions I was using her, it just got her killed because she started luring ranged, and unlike Simba, she doesn't have like an indestructible buff or something like that. She's just got these minus, 20% focus debuffs. Yes, that can stack to minus 60%, but it just got her melted in some situations, and it meant I had to take control of her. And generally speaking, I don't really want to take control of my support, so very, very frustrating that it actually lured. I guess Dory is a character that pertains to player skill a bit more than, other characters. I can see Dory working really well with people that love the chaos, that they love to swap between characters, because, if she can lure ranged, you can effectively use her to take range out of the battle. You can start sliding her away and drawing the attention to her. But for me, as someone who just doesn't really want to take control of their supports, I found this a hassle and just very, very annoying. So it's an interesting talent, let's say that. It might work for other people, it didn't work for me. Okay, then we've got Blinding Optimism. So enemies that hit Dory with a critical hit receive a minus 50% critical damage debuff for 8 seconds. and this can only stack at 1. And then when Dory activates her special ability, she cleanses root from all allies. So yeah, another ranged counter here. I guess semi-decent. I think maybe I was testing Dory's limits too much, taking her into like the last range moats mission. But she still got melted there. And I think talents like this and the last one are going to work as you level Dory up more. I didn't notice the cleanse root because, quite frankly, I didn't have any battles where I got rooted. But I imagine it's pretty cool from her special ability if you can do that. So yeah, this and the last talent, I just didn't see enough from it. And maybe that's my fault. But as I said, guys, I had a lot of errors in my testing, so maybe that's on me. And then last but not least, we've got Can't Quite Remember. So Dory resists 10% damage from ranged enemies. And when Dory activates her special ability, she gains a forgetful charge for 3 seconds. So I would equip this one just because she's going to get that 10% resistance anyway. And then it's quite nice to have this fact that she's going to gain these forgetful charges when she uses her special ability. Couple that with her armor gain talent, and you know, she'll gain a bit of armor. Okay guys, so there we have it. That's my review of Dory today. Yeah, a character that she's just not for me. I'll say this, she just demands a skill level that I was not willing to commit to, which is, to be quite frank, controlling her like quite a lot. She doesn't hit very hard, she doesn't get those focus buffs, so it's a bit like controlling a character that, you know, hits like a wet noodle really. So it was more frustrating really for me that I had to take control of her, and I was a bit underwhelmed by the heavy attacks, and quite often I was using the special out of sight of characters purely because I was just trying to get heals. The fact that she can't heal herself very well as well, even despite the bug, it means in all likelihood you're gonna have to use another support to go with her. Yeah, so she's nowhere near as good as Violet in my opinion. It's a character I'm most likely gonna pass on. I'm not really gonna be that bothered if I don't even unlock her. I do really like the design, I do like all the animations. I think as a character she's very fun, very unique, but very situational. You know, maybe against elementals. She'll probably do well in raids purely because of the fact that she can cleanse so much. However, in the game right now, don't need her. I've got characters that do a better job. And for towers, yeah, I tried her in tower. She didn't help. I had to swap her out eventually because I just kept losing. Yeah, not the biggest fan of this character. Love the design. Think she's very, very interesting, but if I had to grade her, I'd probably grade her in the C tier, B tier at best, and that may improve once we get raids. However, for me, I'm just going to pass on Dory. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.